All right, here is a cha-cha update and to-do list. October 15th. October 15th is the day that my slip, the spot that I have been staying at since pretty much January and have not really moved much, is being used. And it wasn't supposed to be a long-term stay, so I'm not really complaining, but it is something that has to happen. So October 15th, Cha-Cha needs to be moving. Cha-Cha needs to have some minimum things. And Cha-Cha's goal is to go to South Florida and end up somewhere in Florida. Hopefully, we can sail either a little bit south or a little bit north, hit an inlet, and start heading south. Not too far offshore. I have no desire to go really far, but to not be in the inlet. We can't really sail much in the inlet. And you definitely can't sail at night. We just don't do that. We don't sail in the inlets at night or in the intercoastal waterway. We sail in the ocean at night as long as there's wind or motoring. So I don't want to start and stop and anchor and go all the way through Georgia. Georgia's very windy on the intercoastal. Our goal is to get out of an inlet, wait for a weather window. We check all of our apps and then head south and basically get to Jacksonville. St. Augustine is beautiful. Punta Vida, the one that's just south of it, is beautiful. So once I get to Florida, I have people that can help me, and it's much easier for me to navigate Florida than it is for me to navigate Georgia. Florida's much more friendly as far as, where you can anchor. Georgia's just not part of what I want to do. It could happen if I'm by myself and I can't sail offshore. I'd probably have to take the intercoastal waterway, but you have bridges. So what do I need to get Cha-Cha ready? She needs safety. She needs lights for anchoring and for maneuvering. We need navigation, which mainly we're using. I have charts, I have a great compass, and then we have our phones. We're very close to everything, so we should be able to. And I could potentially have a Starlink at some point, but that's neither here nor there. We don't really need it. The next thing that I need is I have a lag bolt issue that I've got and so I'm going to run through the list and then I'll tell you how I'm going to fix them. Lag bolt, I've got a brace that needs to be done. Basically, this holds up the mast, and I think when we started putting pressure on it, it crumbled, and so that has to be fixed. I need to add a fuse. I have a energy charger. I have a charger. So I want to add a fuse. They recommend a 50 amp fuse, not a big deal, but I have to have crimpers and I have to cut the existing ends off. Oh, my packing nut. I actually bought these little wrenches because bigger isn't always better. And this is the smaller one that I have. I have a huge one somewhere that I had to use, and the smaller ones worked much better. Moral of the story, the bigger isn't always better. I need to tighten my injectors. They're a little loose in there. It's a big wrench, and then I think that once I take them off to tighten them, I probably should put a new, it's not an O-ring, but it looks like an O-ring. It's usually a brass. It looks like a O-ring. It looks like a washer being used as an O-ring to seal it. So I need to do that. And my buddy has a torque wrench. It's the only thing on the whole engine that I've seen that has a torque spec to it. And then I do believe I tighten up the injector intake, the in pump, and then I have to bleed the system. So that I think I can do it by myself, but I know one other person I can totally do it with. I need to check all my safety stuff. I need to make sure my lights are working. I need to make sure my bilge pump is working. I need to make sure all of the things are tied down that need to be tied down. I need to deal with my ice box. I haven't really used much ice. A lot of sailors don't they don't have a fridge, they use an ice box. So I have an ice box. I just have to clean it out and kind of get it prepped and see actually how long it takes. I figure at the very most we'll be like 5 to 7 days away from land. Not away, but that's our journey. It can be as short as 4, I believe, depending on where we leave. And then I want to get something in the sink. But for the most part, Cha-Cha has all of the other things that is needed. So my lag bolt is for my motor mount. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the old bolt out. I'm going to soak the daylights out of it with acetone so that it cleans everything out and dries all of the hole out. Once I do that, I'm going to blow dry it or something to make sure it's fully dry and let the acetone do its work. Then I'm going to squirt this mixture. I probably have to pour it in there, and I'm going to fill the hole completely with epoxy, and this is going to harden. This is G-Flex by West Marine. Everyone loves it for tough, permanent, waterproof repairs on plastics. Anyways, it's thickened, and that was what was recommended. So the hard part about this is that it is down in my engine, and it's going to be hard. So once I fill it, I let it harden, and then I'm going to have to drill a hole out, basically a little bit smaller than the size of the lag bolt, right? That's how it's going to fix. So I'm going to want to drill it straight down in an area that has almost no maneuverability. So that's going to be interesting. The other thing that has to happen is now I have to rebuild something like this, but I can't get to this. This is down in the hole and this is glassed in. So I'm going to build a bracket across, more like a 4x4, but the hull is angled. So how do I know the angle? Well, I bought some like angle shapers, but what I think I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna cut out what I would consider basically a 2x4 out of this. And then I'm going to press it where I want it, and it will give me the template edge, you know, because the hull down there is probably going to be more like, so this is my hull. And I have a shaft down here, so I can't like fill it because I need to be able to get to it. That's what these other wrenches are for, is there's what's called a packing nut here. And that was like what the water was coming in. So I have to be able to get to it. So then I want to build a brace, and then I want to somehow, I'm thinking I use a jack. I use a jack to basically lift this from down below, and then put a stand here and a stand here. Maybe I need a fiberglass this. I don't know. This is probably going to be like a 4x4. Maybe there's a steel plate. I have a buddy, Les. He's going to help me get a steel plate here, because what's happened is this has started to sag. So my fiberglass has sagged. It's still very strong. Fiberglass is very strong, but it does have a tendency to sag, and I need to put this back in. So this has to go in down there, and it's about 18 inches apart so I'm going to cut out a 18-inch piece, and then I'm going to kind of shave it a little bit. You know what I'll probably do? I'll probably put it in a bag, and that will allow me to mess with it without getting all of this like weird foam inside my bilge, because if I get foam inside my bilge and I don't get it all out, it could clog the bilge when it's needed, and bilge failure is very bad, which also reminds me maybe I need to get another bilge. Now as far as so that's the lag bolt, that's that. Now this is the fuse system that I'm going to use. This goes on the battery. Hope that fits. This is the fuse system that I have to do. So basically I have to go in there, use some bolt cutters. And this is interesting. I thought I was going to have to crimp it to put it in there, but I don't. It actually uses a clamp setup. So anyways, it'll stop any back power. Lithium batteries can back surge sometimes if there's a malfunction, And that's probably where most of like the problems and the danger comes from, is when you're sending so much power through things that can't handle it. So the goal of this is to stop any like back power between the batteries for some weird reason. The other thing is my backstay. This is my backstay, and this goes all the way up to the front of the mast. And it's too long. Not 100% yet, but I think that once this pushes back a little bit, because what's gonna happen is this is gonna jack up. So this is it's gonna loosen it up even more, which is not good. But this is already as tight as it can be. So I either need to get a shorter one of these, or I need to shorten this. And I can do that by snipping here and adding a new swage and crimping it really hard. Some of them, I have a hand crimper, but I've seen some really good deals on a hydraulic crimper. This stuff is expensive. Something like this is like $45 for this little metal piece here. These are probably like $15. So other than that, and then tightening my injectors that just have a little bit of leaking, not a lot. And honestly, if it, I have one coolant line that's cooling my engine that is rubbing up against something, and I feel a little bit of a soft spot. I have a chafe guard over it. It still has plenty of life left, but it is something that I want to look into if I'm going to do it. It's you don't want your engine losing cooling while you're motoring. Oh my goodness, look at that. So, other than that, now I gotta find someone, probably 1.5 people, to help me get the boat to Florida. I have a volunteer so far. It needs to be someone that knows kind of how to do this, because I actually don't know how to do this. You need to be able to help me set the anchor. You need to be able to help me get the anchor up. You need to actually know a bit about sailing, kind of how to navigate in and out of an inlet, what to do in an emergency. These are things that I am learning. And yeah, so we're hoping that the adventure sometime is between October 15th and November 1st is kind of like my goal. And that can be anywhere from a 10-day to a 3-week journey down to like the Central Florida, South Florida area with Cha-Cha. And then her goal is to travel to the Bahamas. And I do have a new shower head with a 2-hour shower battery that I charge. And it gives anywhere from 1 gallon per minute to 3 gallons per minute, which is a nice long shower. And then, yeah, you can use salt water if it's beautiful. You can use, I have fresh water. And then to heat, we have propane. So, let me know. Other than that, that's all I got for our update of Cha-Cha. The other thing I want to do, I don't know if you can see, but my awning is in progress. This is all a prototype, but eventually I want to be able to have this covered, and I have a piece coming to make this side over here, one or either side, one big like bed, you know, so you can sleep outside under the stars or however you want to do it. But this kind of needs to be protecting all of my stuff. So I'm using a cheap canvas now, which actually, as long as you don't let the water pool, it protects it. And then once I finish my prototype and I figure out how I want to set everything, then I will build a more waterproof one and a more like versatile one. And then I think that I'll be able to pull my hair back, which was kind of the goal. If I can keep my hair out of my face, that would be so awesome. But I think I'm there. So I think that that's perfect timing for the adventure. If I can pull my hair back, that's like pirate leg, right? So there's my list. I'll try to film as it's happening, but those are the things that I need to do between now and October 15th at the very latest. Things like the rigging I can actually do en route. I'd rather not, but I don't want to mess with the rigging until I have my brace all done and my mast back where I want it. Everything else is kind of independent, and I think I'm just gonna, you know, jump on it and start knocking them out. The easiest one is probably getting this fuse on there. Once I have this fuse on there, that'll allow me to hook up my power source. So I charge from my alternator to my main battery, and then my main battery to my starter battery, and then my starter battery, when it's full with this device, it goes and fills up my other battery or batteries, right? Same thing with my solar panel, but I don't have a lot of solar panel, and I'm covering a lot of the solar from the deck just because I'd rather have the shade, and I have power from the shore. But when I'm motoring, I'm thinking in an hour or two of motoring, I'll fill my batteries up, which is days of power for the most part. And yeah, so that's what that device does. What are your questions? Yeah, I don't know how to do this, but we're gonna do it.